For centuries, people across the world spoke of the same creature. They called it by different names, Long, Draco, Quetzalcoatl, but the story remained the same. A giant being descending from the skies, sometimes burning, sometimes blessing. In the mountains of China, it was worshipped. In the villages of Europe, it was feared. In Mesopotamia, it was etched into stone. And in the temples of the Aztecs, its name was whispered in prayer. The same creature, across continents, across centuries, yet always the same form. How could such distant civilizations, cultures with no contact, describe the exact same dragon? Was it really just a myth? Or what if dragons actually existed? Dragons, alien beings or ancient myth? The truth may be closer than we think. Let's rewind time to an era with no internet, no global communication, no contact between continents, to the sacred mountains of ancient China, the stone temples of Mesopotamia, and the shadow of Mayan pyramids. And yet these distant civilizations worshipped one common symbol, the dragon. In ancient China, dragons were more sacred than the gods themselves. They symbolized the emperor. In fact, the emperor was believed to be the earthly incarnation of the celestial dragon. Dragons ruled the skies. They brought rain, thunder, and wind. But there's something peculiar. Most Chinese dragons had no wings. They could fly, yet had no visible wings. Ancient texts describe them soaring through the air, guided by something called qi, a cosmic energy. Was this just poetic myth? Or were the ancients describing something they had seen but couldn't fully understand? Now let's travel to Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. Here, we find dragons carved into stone walls. The Akkadians, Sumerians, and Babylonians all told stories of dragon-like beings. One of the most iconic is Mushusu, a hybrid beast lion's body, eagle claws, serpent tail, and a forked tongue. But this creature wasn't just symbolic. It was said to walk alongside the god Marduk. And in some cuneiform tablets, these beings are described as teachers, bringers of knowledge, calendars, and agriculture. Some even suggest they came from the stars. Across the Atlantic, in what is now Mexico and Guatemala, the Maya and Aztec civilizations worshipped another dragon-like figure, Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, a god and a teacher. He taught people how to grow maize, build cities, and count time. But there's one detail that stands out. Quetzalcoatl came from the sky and returned to the stars. Some believe he will come back one day. In medieval Europe, dragons took on a darker role. No longer gods, they became monsters. They lived beneath cathedrals, burned villages, and kidnapped princesses. But here's the twist. Even in these legends, dragons came from the heavens. Old tales speak of fireballs falling from the sky. And then the dragon appears. Was this merely a meteor, or was something landing? Different timelines, different beliefs, but the shape remains the same. A long body, massive wings or no wings at all. A being from the skies. If dragons were not myths, what were we really describing all these centuries? Perhaps humanity once witnessed something extraordinary, something we could not explain, and we preserved it. Through myth, through memory, we called it the dragon. Legends are sometimes memories, shadows of a forgotten truth. For thousands of years they lived only in myths. But what if those myths were actually memories? Let's turn back to the dusty pages of history once more. Could there really be a trace that dragons once lived? To this day, the scientific world insists dragons are pure legend. If giant winged reptiles ever existed, we'd have found their fossils by now, they said. sounds reasonable. But what if we've misunderstood what we already found? When paleontologists first discovered dinosaur fossils, people believed they were the bones of dragons. In China especially, dragon teeth were thought to have healing powers. Even today, some traditional healers still use these fossils, calling them dragon bones. So what about dinosaurs? Were dragons descended from them? Or were there ancient dragon legends born from misinterpreted dinosaur bones? Dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. Dragon legends, however, trace back only thousands of years to the early chapters of human history. There's a massive time gap, and yet some ancient texts describe living creatures that eerily resemble dinosaurs. For example, in Babylonian myth, Tiamat is portrayed as a massive, scaly, serpent-like being. Likewise, some medieval European illustrations of dragons look uncannily like pterosaurs. Historical records don't just consist of myths. A document written in the 15th century France tells of a dragon being killed by villagers. Around the same time in Germany, a flying serpent-like creature was reported to have crashed near a town. It came down like a bolt of lightning, with a thunderous sound. Its body was covered in scales. Its wings cast a shadow over rooftops. If these accounts were purely fictional, why do so many different cultures describe such similar creatures? And why did some historians treat these texts as eyewitness reports? Today, scientists are working to bring extinct species back through genetic engineering mammoths, Tasmanian tigers, even prehistoric birds. But what if some species went extinct before we ever discovered them? Perhaps dragons died out before they could be classified. Maybe they weren't exactly what we imagine. Maybe the winged beings that came from the sky didn't even belong to this world, and humanity, in awe and fear, saw them as gods and chose to keep them alive. In legend, are myths just imagination, or are they encrypted messages from our collective memory? Dragons may not have been what we think they were, but maybe they were real, and what they left behind wasn't just bones, it was a message. Sometimes the truth hides within the myth. You just need to ask the right question. Dragons are not just creatures of the earth. In many cultures, they're linked to the skies. In China, they are guardians of the heavens. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians described winged beings who descended from the sky. In Mesoamerica, Quetzalcoatl, a feathered serpent, was said to have come from above, bringing knowledge and order. The connection is clear. Dragons are powerful, wise, and always tied to the skies. Some researchers suggest these beings weren't living creatures at all, but ancient interpretations of flying machines or extraterrestrial visitors. Their fire, flight, and massive size might reflect advanced technology seen through myth. Perhaps dragons are not myths born from imagination, but memories of something that once descended from the stars. Were dragons just myth? Or did they once roam this earth? In the Chauvet Cave of France, 30,000-year-old paintings depict winged beasts, massive creatures with horns, tails, and claws. To some they are symbolic, but the level of detail is uncanny, almost too specific to be mere fantasy. In Zimbabwe, an ancient stone carving shows a creature that is part bird, part serpent, revered by local tribes as a judge from the sky. It's not just art, it's a record of belief passed through generations. The Aboriginal rainbow serpent in Australia is another example, a creator and destroyer slithering through the sky. Their rock paintings show a curved winged form eerily similar to dragons on the other side of the world. In medieval Europe, dragons weren't just in fairy tales. Stone carvings in churches, like the one in Worms Cathedral in Germany, depict knights battling flying monsters. These weren't mere decorations. They reflected fears the people believed were real. Across continents and centuries, humanity has carved, painted, and told the same story. A massive, powerful winged being. Some say it's imagination, others believe it's a memory, a shadow of something we once saw, something we tried not to forget. Dragons may not live in our skies anymore, but they are carved into our stones, etched into our myths, and woven into our deepest collective memory. What if dragons didn't come from Earth, but from the stars? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest dragons might not have been creatures of myth, but visitors from beyond. Across ancient texts, sky beings are often described with reptilian or winged forms. The Sumerian Anunnaki was said to descend from the heavens, giant, powerful, and at times serpent-like. In Mesoamerica, the feathered serpent god Kukulkan, or Quetzalcoatl, was described as a divine teacher from the sky. In ancient China, dragons represented cosmic balance, wisdom, and celestial power. Some legends link them directly to star-born deities, beings who came from the heavens to guide or judge humanity. Around the globe, stories repeat the same image, a winged serpent-like being descending from the sky bringing knowledge or destruction. Could these tales be memories or distant echoes of real encounters? Some believe these beings were not just gods, but ancient visitors, maybe even masters of genetic engineering. In this theory, dragons were not imagined, they were remembered. Maybe they never left. Maybe we just call them something else now. Modern science views dragon myths through fossils and ancient reptiles like dinosaurs and pterosaurs. Some speculate about genetic engineering and DNA manipulation as explanations. While dragons remain mythical, these ideas explore the boundary between legend and reality. Dragons continue to captivate us in movies, books, and games. They symbolize power, wisdom, fear, and transformation. These mythical creatures reflect our collective subconscious, embodying humanity's deepest hopes and fears. Dragons, myth or reality, remains an enduring mystery. Across time and cultures, the same powerful figure appears. What remains is our quest to follow these traces, blending imagination and research to get closer to the truth. Perhaps dragons are not just ancient legends, but star-born visitors, shared dreams, or reflections of humanity's deepest fears and hopes. Keep exploring the unknown, because every legend carries a seed of truth. If you want to discover more mysteries like this, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell. Your support means a lot and helps keep the journey alive. Thanks for watching.